This is it.
Yeah.
489.
Which one you say, I'm sorry?
489. Down at the cross where my Savior died, down where for cleansing for sin I cried, there to my heart was the blood applied. Glory to His name, glory to His name, glory to His name. There to my heart was the blood applied. Glory to His name. I am so wondrously saved from sin. Jesus so sweetly abides within. There at the cross where they took me in. Glory to His name. Glory to His name. Glory to His name. There to my heart was the blood applied. Glory to His name. Verse 4. Come to the fountain so rich and sweet. Cast thy poor soul at the Savior's feet. Plunge in today and be made complete. Glory to His name. Glory to His name. Glory to His name. There to my heart was the blood applied. Glory to His name. 431. I love to tell the story of unseen things above, of Jesus and His glory, of Jesus and His love. I love to tell the story because I know 'tis true. It's sad have loved so long. I love to tell the story. Will be my theme in glory. To tell the old story of Jesus and His love.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Yeah. It's gonna stay here because we're
Thank you.
Y'all remember Kim and your prayer, or have you already done that?
No, I don't think we did a prayer yet. Somebody had mentioned that.
He's in the hospital.
Who was it again? Ken? Oh, yeah, yeah. Yep, yep.
And we probably won't be here next weekend.
Oh, okay.
We don't have a big crowd anyway, thank goodness, but yeah, maybe I'll try to leave now.
Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha. So, all right, so they won't be here, you won't be here next weekend?
Right.
Okay.
What about the following?
No, I think they said they weren't gonna do it the following.
No?
I
No,
don't
because,
remember. I know the first,
yeah.
the breakers won't be back, right?
What you
I don't know, I'm
The
confused.
first
Which
weekend,
weekends
they
are which
weren't
now?
gonna do it because they were gonna be with their family, yeah.
You know, Robert.
Yeah,
We're going
yeah.
We're
live.
not gonna be here next
Going
week.
live?
Yeah.
Boy, we're gonna get kicked off within 5 minutes. I
No, don't
guarantee
say
it.
that.
I'm telling you. I was just saying that,
Breaker, we'll take
before,
next week off.
if I should even try to do this one, because I'm afraid it, for real, even on my channel, I might get a strike.
Oh, man. What is it gonna be about?
The end times, but a lot of like stuff going on in the world too, so
Oh,
maybe I should change it.
That's disinformation.
It is, they're gonna say it is.
That's what they say.
Yeah, maybe I better shift gears, because if he's going live, I don't want it kicking off.
I'll get them kicked off.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, save me some trouble, dude.
Huh?
Save me some trouble. I won't have to do this anymore.
Maybe I better switch gears then, because I don't want to get, especially if we're going live for Brother Breaker, I don't want to cause any trouble for him. For mine, I can always edit. I could edit before I post, but if we're going live, I better switch up. So let me
He's already been banned from TikTok, right?
what are we going live on anyway?
TikTok.
TikTok, yeah.
Now, is this something you can say, people say, or I've heard?
Yeah.
All right, I'll do my best. I'll do my best.
We
'Cause I really want to do this one because I've been telling everybody on my channel, oh yeah, wait for next Sunday, I got a new one coming up. So I'd like to do it.
They
That's
can't-
what Robert done last week.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to watch how I say stuff. But, okay, so next weekend, you guys won't be here,
Right.
just so,
And the following we're not doing.
No, I think next week we are. It's the next week.
No, they're not gonna be.
they're not gonna be home.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
they're
Yeah.
going away.
So we're not gonna have church for 2 weeks.
Right.
No, tomorrow's Richard, or next week's Richard.
No, they're not gonna be here next week.
Oh, they're not being here.
So not next week, but the following will be Richard.
No, the following they're off. They're not coming.
Yeah, the
So
first,
2
Oh,
weeks
that's
we're
right.
the
off.
first is off too.
Alright,
Oh, dude, I'm gonna be so backslidden. You guys are gonna catch me at Sammy's.
You're already making plans. aren't
I'm gonna get the limo. I'll go pick you up.
Gonna be back sitting, he's already there. You already planned it. If you
Yeah.
planned it, you're already
I
there.
already paid my indulgence. Oh, good.
Yeah, so, and then prayers for Ken. So
Right.
if you,
And
everybody,
also for Nikki,
and for Nikki.
she had lost her teeth,
Oh,
Lost her what?
teeth.
Her teeth.
her partials.
Okay,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And,
What?
for the last 3 days, we can't find them, so she's gonna have to go get new ones.
Oh my gosh,
She's not happy at all.
yeah, I bet. That's unfortunate. It
Who would
reminds me of
who
an
would do
episode
that?
of
Who
Alf.
would take her
Remember?
teeth?
When Raquel lost her teeth out in the yard. Oh my gosh, it was a good episode. Anyway, so are we golden for a moment?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this is welcome to the end times. Not so much that we're just now getting there, but for those that are not aware and hopefully are coming up to speed, they can realize that that's where we're at, is in the end times. This is a video I actually did about 2 years ago on my channel, and then I've since added to it and expanded. And it was kind of ironic. We were sitting here last week, and when Brother Breaker was doing his message last week, I turned to my wife and I said, this is more than just coincidence, because the video I want to do next week kind of ties in directly with that. So Brother Breaker was able to phrase everything so he didn't get kicked off, so I'm going to try to do the same thing. So if you go to Matthew chapter 24, and we're going to look at verse 6. So Matthew 24:6. It's kind of going to be the center of all of this. I'll write it up here too. Matthew 24:6. All right, which says, "And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet." And I'm going to go into verse 7 as well. "For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places." So I have verse 7 to that as well. So that's kind of our springboard for today, taking a look at what Jesus is talking about in this verse. Wars and rumors of war, we certainly hear a lot of that. As far as the earthquakes and famines, throughout history, there have been a lot of famines and weather changes. I would say weather manipulations, okay? And I have to be careful how I say that, but so we're going to talk about wars and rumors of wars, weather changes, weather manipulations, and then pestilences. Pestilences basically could be like any sort of a plague. And we know that throughout history there have been a number of plagues, such as the bubonic plague, which was from 541 to 750. Smallpox, which took place from the 10th century right up to about 1979, when they finally were able to eradicate smallpox. The Black Death from 1331 to 1353. These are what we call epidemics. We also have what are called pandemics. In 430 BC, starting in Athens, Greece, there was typhoid fever. There was the Antonine Plague in 165 AD, which is basically smallpox. And what this was is the Huns had infected the Germans, who would then in turn pass it to the Romans, and then it spread throughout the Roman Empire. In the 11th century, leprosy was a big thing. During the Middle Ages, it's basically a bacterial disease. That's where it stems from. It's a hygiene issue. Basically not disposing of human waste properly. If you ever watch old movies, sometimes they'll depict it properly. If they emptied whatever they were using for their restroom duties, they would just kind of dump it out into the streets. You see them dumping it out the window or whatever else. If you look through history, you'll notice that with all these plagues that were going on, it rarely affected the Jewish people. And that's because the Jews adhered to the hygienic laws that were in the Old Testament. If you go to Deuteronomy chapter 23, Deuteronomy chapter 23. We're going to look at verses 12 and 13. Thou shalt have a place also without the camp, whither thou shalt go forth abroad, and thou shalt have a paddle upon thy weapon, and it shall be, when thou wilt ease thyself abroad, thou shalt dig therewith, and shalt turn back and cover that which cometh from thee. So kind of like a cat. So the Jews were instructed to go outside of their camp or outside of their city in order to do their business. And they were to take a shovel, dig a hole, do what they had to do, and then bury it. And because they did that all throughout history, they weren't affected nearly as much as the rest of the population because they adhered to these hygienic laws. So 1665, we have the Great Plague of London, which is basically the bubonic plague, which killed 20% of London's population. In 1817, cholera. This was the first of 7 different ones. So over the course of 150 years, there were these different cholera outbreaks. And again, this is spread through human waste and not disposing of it properly. More recently, we've had right? Without saying it. See what the number 20 minus 1 after it. So what is the reason for war? I'm going back, I'm kind of jumping back and forth. I promise it will become more coherent as we move along. The reason for war is basically population control. You're going to find, if you really study true history, that most of your wars are planned and that they're orchestrated. In the United States history, out of the 239 years that we've existed, 222 years of those have been spent in war. So only a few years have we not been in war, just in the short time that we've been a nation. In the world in the past 3,400 years, only 268 years have been at peace. So only 8% in the past 3,400 years. So we're looking at these epidemics and pandemics, which, by the way, there's a difference. An epidemic is a disease that rapidly affects a limited area. Pandemic is basically an epidemic that spreads across multiple regions. All right? So you have the wars, you have these plagues, and then you also have climate change, or geoengineering, or some people will refer to chemtrails or cloud seeding, if you really look into it, you'll find that there's a thing called HAARP. And if you look at that, you'll see that for a very long time, they've been able to manipulate the weather. And you have to ask yourself, why is that? Why would they want to do something like that? Just this past year, since June 19th of 2024, there have been 11 hurricanes. 11 hurricanes. And I was reading somewhere that people were saying that these hurricanes were originating in the Gulf, which never happens. Naturally, a hurricane will never develop in the Gulf. So how is it that they're able to this time? I would have to say that there's some manipulation going on in order to make that happen. There's, like I said, 11 hurricanes that have come through just since June of 24, $189 billion in damage, 386 deaths. Then there's the situation in North Carolina with FEMA, the lithium mines, and people not being able to retain their land. All of this is for a reason, and I'm getting to that. The weather modification can cause and result in famines. So I don't think it's a coincidence, if you go back to the early 1900s, that the Dust Bowl occurred right around the same time that there was the stock market crash in 1929. I just think that there's too much coincidence involved for those two events, which are separate events, to happen at the same time and still have the same results. I think that the economy crash obviously was manipulated and done for very nefarious reasons. And then you add the Dust Bowl to that, and it just compounds the problem. The result of that was the expansion of the Federal Reserve. There were more taxes implemented, confiscation of gold and silver, and a move toward a fiat currency. And this is just from 1930s. And then also you have socialism, welfare, public parks, or public works rather, and rural development. Now, all of these were sold to us as a better society, to bring things up to speed. But anytime the government gives you something, you have to know that there's strings attached, and they're long lasting. The income tax, for example, was only supposed to be temporary. This is a very long temporary. So all of this results in more government, less freedom, more taxes, and a shift from being reliant upon God. Instead, you start to rely upon government. So government becomes the new God. If you go to Psalm 118, we're going to look at verse 8. It says, "It is better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in man." Even in this most recent election, no matter who you are voting for, we tend to put a whole lot of confidence in these candidates, that they're going to turn everything around for us or make our country better or whatever else. And certainly it does matter who you vote for and what they stand for. But I just think that there's an over-reliance on what people can do and what government can do. People almost become lost when government starts to back off, in the rare instance that it does. If you go to Jeremiah chapter 17, in verse 5, says, "Thus saith the Lord, cursed be the man that trusteth in man, and maketh flesh his arm, and whose heart departeth from the Lord." Again, I just think the more that we rely on government, the further we move away from, one, individual liberties, but also from God and our reliance upon Him, or what we should be doing. It also leads to, all of this leads to rebellion. If you go to Matthew 24 again, and look at verse 10, it says, "And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another." Whenever there's a difference in political position, or whenever there's some sort of a crisis, you'll notice that people, instead of coming together, they start to move apart. Since we're in Matthew 24, verses 32 through 34. "Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh. So likewise, when you shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors." So this is an obvious reference to the restoration of Israel, which would come in 1948. And it says, "This generation shall not pass." So all of this is pointing to the second coming. And this in turn, thanks to the mysteries revealed to Paul, can lead us to the rapture. I believe that the only hope that we truly have right now is when Christ comes back for the church. I'm trying to edit as I go along, so this might not be as coherent as I want it to be. This marks the ending, but what marks the beginning of the end times? The earliest Christians pointed to the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. So that would be the start of the end times. Excuse me, and it's just escalated ever since then. The devil lost a lot of power after Christ conquered the grave, and he conquered death, and he conquered sin, but he still does persist. And the devil, of course, has help in what he's doing, and Brother Breaker touched on that last week with fallen angels or with demons, but he is still active. If you go to 1 Peter 5:8, it says, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour." So his power is limited and temporal. He cannot be everywhere at once, but he does have help. The devil can tempt us. He has influence. He can't make us do anything, but he can influence us. I really want to go to Ephesians chapter 6. Ephesians 6. from verse 12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the ruler of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So Satan not only has demons that are helping him, but he also has influence over people who also submit to him. And this is really the main part that I wanted to get to. This is where we're going to get kicked off. So, if you really take a deep dive into who controls the world and who's really pulling the strings, I know that we have our elections, and I think that people should participate in that. But I'm of the opinion that they too are limited in what they can do, and not just because they answer to us or they're supposed to. But I do believe that most of them are nothing more than puppets, and their strings are being pulled by other people. And when Jesus talks about these end times and the wars and rumors of wars, pestilences, and all these things that we've just kind of glossed over for the sake of not getting kicked off, it's for a reason. It's to, one, control the population, and two, what population remains to have complete control over them. And if you look at any sort of job structure, if you look at something that we can relate to, such as a job, all right, in a bigger corporation, you will have your board of directors. They're kind of up here at the top. You'll have a boss of some kind, and then you have your employees. Okay. In a smaller one, you might just have the boss, some sort of a manager, and then your employees. All right. And this should look somewhat familiar to you. The all-seeing eye, if you ever look at the back of your dollar bill, you're going to see that. We talk about pyramid schemes and how they're illegal. But if you look at the structure of our world, it all comes down to pyramid schemes. With this all-seeing eye, from here we get our Federal Reserve, and we can thank Abe Lincoln for that, to be honest. But we have world powers. Stem from this 13 families. Okay. And then we have our secret orders. And then our politicians. And this is really how the world works. You have 13 families that control everything. They break down into all these different secret orders that we're going to take a look at, and they are the ones that control the politicians. Okay, so the 13 families are within the order of the Illuminati. If you look at, again, the backside of your dollar bill, that pyramid, you're going to see that there's 13 layers of bricks on there. Those represent those 13 families. These 13 families have amassed power and wealth over centuries. Okay, they own everything from investment companies such as Vanguard and BlackRock, which in turn owns just about every other company out there. If you look at all your major corporations, you're going to see that they control about 95% of every company out there. Small businesses only make up a small percentage. And we see from just a few years ago, especially with this right here, a lot of those small businesses failed. They had to. They had to close, they had to reduce the number of customers they could bring in, etc. And the goal is to get rid of small businesses so that everything is corporate owned. And that's what we call fascism. It's the unholy alliance between government and corporations. And they control everything. So these families are tied to the Vatican and to the Jesuit order. And some of these are full-fledged members of the Jesuit order and the order of the Illuminati. Or you have lower level ones such as Masons. There's also smaller parts, such as the Knights of Malta or the Protectors of the Vatican. The Rothschilds, if everybody's familiar with them, these are the Knights of Malta. They were absorbed into the Jesuit order, and that created the Bavarian Illuminati. I'm going deep on here. Have we been kicked off yet?
No, you're
Oh, I'm
still
surprised.
going just great.
Okay. So all of these orders are connected, and their organizer is the Superior General of the Jesuit Order, which is also known as the Black Pope. So, excuse me. So all of your world leaders swear an allegiance to this Black Pope. It's a satanic ritual that's inverted, and they swear allegiance to this Black Pope. So all of these orders that you have, that we've just touched on, that are stemming from these 13 families, all of them are swearing an allegiance to this Black Pope, the Jesuit order, the Vatican. So the Black Pope is the president of the world. Now, if you think about the president of the world, or you talk about like the United Nations, or what's coming during the tribulation period, you'll know that we have something called the Antichrist. Somebody who's going to rule over everything. And I think that this Black Pope could be that person, or at least I've always believed that the false prophet would come out of the Catholic Church. So they have rules over the maritime laws. They control the banking system, the Freemasonry, the secret services such as the CIA, FBI, NSA, Scotland Yard, etc. So all of this is being controlled from the Vatican. You also have what's called the White Pope, and that's who we are most familiar with. We see him on TV all the time. And in reality, he is just a figurehead for this guy over here. The Black Pope is the one that's actually making all the calls, all the decisions. So from here, I'm going to talk about the Trinity of the Globalist Stranglehold. I use the term globalist quite loosely for different reasons, but that's all right. Globalist is often just anybody that's looking to make everything uniform or put everything into unison. A one world government, one world economy, one world religion. And again, we see that coming during the tribulation period. How many of you are familiar with an obelisk? Right? We see one in Washington, D.C. They have one in London. They have one in the Vatican as well. These, if you really look into this, these are called city-states. London, the Vatican, and Washington, D.C. And a city-state is basically something that's outside of the nation that it's supposed to represent. So London is not actually a part of England. It is separate. The Vatican is not a part of Italy. It is separate. And Washington, D.C. is not actually a part of the United States. It is separate. But there's these three, again, going back to this right here, you have London, which is the world center for finance, the Vatican, which obviously is for religion, and then Washington, D.C., which is military. So all of these have already been set up, and they're just waiting for the Antichrist to come in and basically take them over, utilize them for his purposes. These 13 families are ancient bloodlines. At the top of the pyramid, they rely on the secret orders and the face organizations beneath them. And this big think tank is known as the Committee of 300. These in turn rely on sub-organizations such as the Club of Rome, the Tavistock Institute, and all of these branches then pass this agenda to face organizations such as the United Nations and the World Economic Forum. So it's really just a trickle down from these 13 families. They just use these smaller face organizations, and then these face organizations in turn control the politicians. This is put into motion through world governments and politicians. It's kind of like the Social Security number I was talking about earlier, the income tax, but we also know about the Social Security number that's tied to that. taxes were only supposed to be on businesses and corporations. So what they do is they create what's called a straw man, and that's what they have for you. You've become a corporation, and that's what the Social Security number is for. So from here, again, we have the Black Pope, which goes down to the 13 families, to our secret orders and faith organizations, to the world governments, then to police forces, and then to citizens. And that's the order that this is all running in. And that's the problem that we have when we vote. We're voting for a politician who we're hoping will change the face of what we see is happening, but they're answering to people that are far more powerful than they are. The Federal Reserve is another reason why we're permanently, perpetually in debt, but also why it's impossible for any politician to truly turn the country around. The only way that the country would ever get back to what it originally started as is if you were to get rid of the Federal Reserve. It's basically a banking cartel. They print a fiat currency and then they rent it to the United States. And the fee that they charge is more than the face value of the currency. So if you have a $1 bill, but you're renting it from the Federal Reserve, and they're charging $1.25 for it, you're perpetually in debt. You're never going to get rid of the national debt. Again, if you go to Ephesians chapter 6, and we look at verses 12, it says, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. It's to my point that it's not so much the politicians, it's who they're answering to. And those people are being controlled by something much bigger and much darker than most people even realize. I think the problem too is that you see all this talk about digital currency or the elimination of cash. There's already some businesses that won't accept cash anymore. You have to pay with a card. If you do away with paper currency, the government's already tracking everything that you do anyway, but if everything is digital, it's going to make it a whole lot easier for them to track everything that you're doing, where you're spending, and what you're buying. It's that elimination of freedom, that elimination of individual liberty, that is the ultimate goal, not only for government and these people that we've just talked about, but that's what Satan wants as well. All of this will stem back to him. So when I say welcome to the end times, again, it's not so much that we're just now getting there. Like I said, the end times, I believe, began with the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ. I think that's when Christ conquered death, he conquered sin, but the devil has since stepped up his efforts to sort of bring his agenda into place. And the only thing that's going to change that, I believe, is when Christ comes back to rapture out the church. And I'm going to stop there because I think I've censored enough. So that's all I had for today. I wish I could have done what I really wanted to, but I was afraid we were going to get kicked off. What's that?
I said we appreciate what you did.
Yeah, I wish I could have done it better, but I don't want to.
Don't know what you've done so far is an idol.
What's that?
I said for those that don't know, what you've done already is an idol.
Yeah, I mean,
Most people do not know.
no, and again, because I'm also on Brother Breaker's platform, and I don't want to.
I can turn it off if you want.
No, that's okay. I just don't want to. And, you know what happens with my channel is fine. I just don't want to mess with his. This is just touching. This is just on the surface. It's the tip of the iceberg. I wish I could have really gone into it more, but I just don't want to do anything against Brother Breaker's channel. So that's what I have. But thank you guys.
Thank you, man. Cool. Alright. Alright, were you preaching next?
You are.
Okay. No, he's joking. You're making them all stare at me, right?
We're waiting.
Huh?
We're waiting just a minute.
Come on, dude. No, he's joking, right, Ray?
Huh?
You're joking, right?
About-
Ray Senior?
About me preaching?
Yeah.
He ain't joking.
Go ahead, it's your turn. We're waiting.
Okay, I'm gonna preach on.
Robert
Why?
said it was your turn.
I'm gonna preach on why you should keep the Federal Reserve. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah.
I do have some interesting comments to add though on that same subject. So I've been, I think it was sometimes like everything's off. I think like maybe 4 or 5 months ago I got obsessed over this, like in a different way.
Yeah.
Because I already knew a lot about this because I told you that I had like a friend that was a Freemason.
Yeah.
Then we got him saved with Robert, and then he gave me a bunch of books. And then after that, he almost got killed. They almost murdered him. And then I don't know if you know this story. I don't know if you ever heard this story. He gave me a bunch of Freemason books. And then he said, I'm done being a Freemason. Like, I just converted my faith in the blood of what we believe in Freemasonry. And I just converted it to Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
He still doesn't like Jews, though. Little did he know that I was one at the time. But he basically gave me this book, and it showed me everything that the government's doing behind everybody's back. And these are books that once you die, if you're a Freemason and you die, the Freemason cult comes into your house and then takes the books back.
Yeah.
And that has happened to another friend of mine who their grandpa was a Freemason too, and he died. They came into the house and just took everything and then just left. And he basically I started thinking again about that like maybe a couple months ago when I started getting into the Illuminati card game, and I started looking into it and I'm like, man, like there's something like else, like more than this. So I already know like the Rothschilds, I already know about what are the other ones, like I don't know, the other family members, all these other families, and I started thinking that maybe it's not them. Like maybe they're just puppets too, you know? Because everybody thinks like Klaus Schwab and you know like the UN and all these people are like the face of it, you know? Like they're the ones that are the puppets behind like Kamala and all that stuff. But I started thinking that maybe it's not them. They're all like anybody that's visually seen is probably not in control of anything. And the ones that are probably not seen that we don't know anything about, like they could be at Walmart next week and we wouldn't even know, and they're the ones that probably run everything. And so I started looking into Bible verses to help me with that. And a Bible verse that popped up was something about like the beast will run with the kings or something like that at the end. Not now, but at the end. So who are these kings that like are in power now if it's only going to be at the end when the real kings come out? And then if you look at the dollar, like you said earlier, if you look at the dollar, it's not together with the triangle. It's floating. So it's away from society. It's something that isn't part of our society. And then if you count like the bricks under it, it's like, I don't know how many layers, like 13.
13, yeah.
And you could literally just go through there and be like, okay, here's the peasants, here's the commoners, here's the celebrities, here's the politicians, here's the business owners, here's the business providers, here's the banks. But like, where are the kings? There's no room for the real kings. And if you look at the dollar or where the all-seeing eye is, I started thinking that that's maybe where they are. The real kings and the devil are up there, separated from the rest of society. So I have a feeling that it's not going to be who we think it is. Like once we're raptured and we're gone, the Rothschilds are just going to be like, oh, like we don't need you anymore. Like we used you already. Now the real king is going to step up that provided money for the Rothschilds that nobody knew. And then it's funny because I went on Facebook and I just started watching a video on Facebook, and then all of a sudden in the comments, a guy posted a picture and he said, "This is after. Like I didn't look for this, or this wasn't the start of my journey." But he said the people that we think is in charge, and they put Rothschilds and everybody else, and then he's like, "But the people that are actually in charge," and he put like other people's name. I didn't know who they were, and I don't know anything about them. So I started thinking maybe this guy knows, you know, maybe this guy did. Like found out the truth, you know. And I started thinking a lot, like for instance, like I read the book that the Freemason gave me, and he told the ex-Freemason. I'll tell you one thing too. Once he got saved, I've known him my whole life. He was always mean. He was so like sinful. Like he did evil stuff all the time, like bad. But once he got saved, and I went to go meet him and see him, he was a completely different person. He
Yeah.
was just as happy as can be, and beat up and with a broken leg because the Freemasons tried to kill him, and he was just as happy as could be. And I was like, dude, this thing actually did something to this guy. Like, he actually got saved, you know. What was I going with that? The book says that, you know, they would have people that look like they're on the commoner side that are actually more critical thinking. You know, like, you know, people like, I'm not saying it said that, but opposed opposition, like Alex Jones, you know, certain political heads that look like they're for, like, us. But really, they would be on their side at the end of the day. And they're getting everybody's information of who supports them, so that when they take over, they'll go after them. And what else did it say? It said something else. I was going to say something else about that. He said also, one of the Freemasons said, if the people need a hero, we'll make them a hero. And whoever is a hero to us today, that's like probably made by them, you know. And you know, I'm 100% for Trump. You know, I'm still am. I never will stop. But there is videos of him being at a Freemason indoctrination. You know, that is a little weird. You know, that he was indoctrinated into Freemasonry. You know, he literally is like in video at a Freemason indoctrination with his hands like this, wearing the Freemason clothing and everything.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was weird. But there's one thing I do know for sure. I do know for sure that the Vatican or whatever, they're definitely like out in the open. You know, and I do believe that there probably is a black pope that's doing everything. We don't know who he is either.
Who's a black pope? Is he just black or that's
No. His robes are black,
His robes are black.
and I do have his name, but I didn't say it.
I just feel like whoever is in. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say something about the book. It said that we would create controlled opposition, like people like Alex Jones and people like that. People that like are out here telling us the truth, but really they're controlled. And the reason they did that is so that we could see an example of what happens when you go against them. And what's happening right now to Alex Jones, he's getting sued, he's getting destroyed, his company is being sold out. So that's just something that I learned from having a Freemason friend, like in my circle, you know. But I don't know if it's true.
Paul has a term for this right here.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the course of this world.
Mm-hmm.
It's on a course. Okay? And that course ends with the Antichrist. Okay? You can't change that course. It's going to this point.
Mm-hmm.
We're not on that course. We're on a course that looks like this. The only thing you can do is pull people out of this course. I ain't saying this to be offensive or anything like that, but this is a distraction.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of time when it goes into this,
Right.
when your time should be going into this.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
But I really don't mean that to be offensive. I just.
No, it's fine. Yeah. No. Yeah, I know what you mean.
But it's important to know that stuff to get people pulled out of it. So.
Yeah.
So look, here's the names of the people that we think run the world.
Yeah.
The Astor bloodline, the Bundy bloodline, the Collins bloodline, the DuPont bloodline, the Freeman bloodline, the Kennedy bloodline, the LJ, and then it keeps going all the way down to Rothschilds, Russells, the Van Doren. But this guy put the 13 families that actually rule the world. And he put the Borgia bloodline, the Beak-Spear bloodline, the Samogia bloodline, the Decini bloodline, and he just listed this whole other list of people. I never heard of them. I've heard of Rothschilds, I've heard of the Kennedy, I've heard of all those people. But I never heard of any of these, like the Medici bloodline. That's not like medicine. You know, maybe that's where the medicine term comes from.
Mm-hmm.
The Pamphili bloodline, the Este bloodline, the Albarandini bloodline. So I just thought that it was weird that somebody had something like that, you know, because every time I talk to somebody, they always tell me like, oh yeah, Bill Gates run the world, and you know, Schwab and all these people, and they make it seem like they found that, you know. But to me, I just started thinking about that like a couple months ago. I was like, what if these people aren't actually like really in charge or like behind the scenes of everybody? You know, maybe it's just like a matrix where you keep thinking that somebody is somebody, but really the person that's helping run the Antichrist into the world is people that we'll never know their name until we're raptured out. And then once we're raptured out, then maybe we could look into the timeline or something and then look and be like, who the heck is that guy? Who's that king? He was running America the whole time? I thought it was the Rothschilds or, you know, Klaus Schwab or, no, it's this guy? This guy's a nerd, you know? This guy's a dweeb,
Yeah.
you know? And it's...
Well, nothing you see on TV or anything, none of it's real. I
Yeah.
literally found out yesterday the whole lone
Yeah.
survivor Marcus Luttrell story.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fake.
It was something that I think...
It made me angry.
There's something I found out
It's
too
fake.
about Dale. Dale said this one time too. She said, if it's on TV, it's not real.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's so true, you know. And if you watch certain TV programs, like for instance, what's one that we found that was fake? Like Pawn Stars. That whole
Yeah.
show is fake. The whole thing is just friggin' fake. And I started thinking too, like, where the heck did these people come from anyway? It's like, oh, I have a $30 million Hot Wheel. Like, how did you get that? Why do you have that? Why? You know? And how do you know this $3 million? Who gave such a high value to a piece of junk, you know? But I started, I tell my wife all the time, like even Gordon Ramsay, my wife likes to watch Gordon Ramsay, and I've seen some episodes where I was like, dude, this guy's gay. This guy's a freaking fruitcake. Like, he's just so gay sometimes. I'm like, nah, dude, he's gay. He might be married, but he's gay. Publicly, he looks married. But I don't think you can be on TV and be straight, you know? I don't think you can be that powerful and not be evil.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that they're just all like clowns, you know, they're all puppets, and even the ones that we think are not clowns and puppets are still clowns and puppets, because what happens if the real people, like the real person that's running everything, what if they get 1 second of airtime? What's going to happen to them if they get killed? If they get shot or murdered, you know, like what's going to happen? Then everything goes away. The Antichrist lost everything. So I think that they put like Klaus Schwab, what's the other guy, George Soros,
Yeah.
Trudeau. I think that all these people that are actually, that we can see on TV at the UN meetings and all this stuff, I just don't think that they're just like us. They're just paid a higher pay benefit than we are, you know? And they're only put there so that if they die, who cares? We'll just replace them with somebody else as long as we're in control. Because also the other thing that I thought about is, for thousands and thousands of years, we've seen kings come up. And these people that are in power probably were kings and they were queens and all that stuff. And they probably just kept seeing them die and die and die. And they're like, okay, dude, we gotta figure out a way to like lose kingdoms, but still run everything at the same time, you know? And they probably decided, okay, I'm gonna put, just like God, you know, the devil's a type of God. God rules through David, but nobody can kill God or go after God because, you know, how can you find him? And probably the devil's the same way. He's like, I'm gonna have a king, and I'm gonna rule through them, and then nobody can kill me or the person that I'm using to actually rule that person. You know, it's like everything just like Matrix feeling, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I don't get mad at Klaus Schwab's, or I don't get mad at other people like that, because they're probably just as scared as we are. You know, they're probably always worried that they're gonna get shot or killed. The Rothschilds. There was a video of a Rothschilds outside with like a super expensive watch, and the guy didn't know it was a Rothschild. And then he was like, hey, can you tell me about your watch? What do you think about it? And the Rothschild person was just terrified of him. Like, just like so scared of them. Like, he thought that they were going to kill him or something. So they're probably like stressed, and they probably feel like they're going to get killed at any time, because that's what they put them in power for, so that they could be just like Secret Service dummies, you know. But that's what I was thinking. And then also I went to go see Gary in Arizona. And I was like, that's during the time I was thinking about it, and I was like, Gary, what do you think about this? I keep having this play out in my head, and I just want to get it out and see what you think. And he grabbed me the Bible, and he said, no, you're exactly right. And he showed me Bible verses saying like that the spirits are inside of these kings, and they're running like the world right now and all this stuff. And like, you know, Klaus Schwab, dude, I doubt that there's devils in that guy. I just doubt it, because he would be on screen like biting people and, you know, like, you know, what is it, cutting himself and throwing himself in fire, you know. And they're just too professional looking, you know, to be demons, to be full of devils. Every time you read in the Bible of devils, they're always crazy. You know, so a kid has devils, what does he do? He jumps in fire. You know, or somebody else that has devils, he like cuts himself. You know, but yeah, that's what I thought about that is why you were saying all this. Because I did a further intensive like research on it like a couple months ago, and I just kept thinking to myself like, dude, these people aren't really in power like the ones that we're watching on TV. There's just no way. And by the way, I hate Shriners. You guys should.
Strikers, yeah.
Oh yeah, everything about them is all evil.
I charged up a Shriner in South Carolina. I went up to her and I was like, "Do you even know what that hat means?" And she was like, "Oh, it just means goodwill and all this stuff." And I was like, "No, it means that you're dipping the blood of Christians in that hat." And she's like, "No, that's not true." And I literally walked forward and got closer to her face. I'm like, "That's the freaking truth, dude."
And they all have Islamic sayings or something.
Yeah, and there's a sword.
Yeah.
What a creepy thing, you know? And then have you seen their commercials or Shriner Love commercials for
Yeah.
their hospitals? I'm just like spitting on the screen.
That's just a front.
I'm like, man,
Whole hospital thing.
I almost want the kids to die, but never mind. The ones that they're promoting on there, they're weird too, you know. But yeah, I went up to that lady and she was like, "No, it's not that." She tried to lie, and I got even closer to her, and I was like, "No, dude, don't lie to me. Like, you know exactly what that
What
means."
hat?
You know
The
ugly-
fez.
I'm not familiar.
Yeah, ugly
Isn't
red
that what it's
hat.
called, a fez?
Yeah,
no,
that's-
not a fez.
It's like this. It's like this, and it's red, and it's got like a little thing that looks like, you know.
Yeah.
They look
Does
like,
it have a dangly thing?
yeah, they look
Yeah,
like,
like when you're graduating.
yeah, they look like Indians, you know, like Jeep, hijabi looking guys, hijabi looking hats. I don't know, they're weird, but they're evil. They're so evil. And I've been to a Shriner place. I've been inside of them, and if you look at their wall where like their
Yeah, it
best
is-
Shriners
It
died,
is a fez.
Oh, and what religion is that?
they're like a type of Freemason Jesuits.
It's a higher level Freemason.
Yeah.
Oh.
So you have to be I think you have to be a master mason in order to be a Shriner.
Oh.
And then another thing too, think about it. It's called, what are the TV shows called? Master Chef. You know, and what are they called? Master Masons. You know, all these shows, Master Sword,
I
like
don't have
Master
a
all these
TV,
things.
So I don't know.
Good.
about that stuff. Oh, okay.
They're all Islamic sayings that go on.
Yeah.
Oh,
They're evil.
okay. I don't have a TV, so I don't know any of the shows that
They're
you're
evil.
talking
They're evil. They're so evil, and I can't stand them. Every time I see them, I jump in front of them. I'm like, don't lie to me, dude. Like, I know that's what your stupid hat means. Sometimes I even feel like kicking it off their head. You know, like I just want to punch it off
They
their
even
head.
have Shriner ball caps, and of course they're red and they have that Islamic stuff all over.
It means
about. Well, there's Islamic and they're from Mason.
yeah, they're like a higher Mason.
Yeah, every Shriner
What
is a
kind of
master
religion is
mason.
that?
And there's a guy that was the Shriner, and he got saved, and he got out, and he exposed them. And they say that when you become a Shriner or whatever, they send you back to like the Catholic Church or whatever church you come from to run a church, and then you go there and corrupt it. So like that's why there's a lot of like independent Baptists right now. They're crazy. You know, a bunch of like Catholics that are just murderers because of stuff like that.
Oh, I remember you were talking about the thing that is in Washington and in London.
Yeah.
They have, doesn't that come from Egypt?
The phalanx
Well, yeah, the
They have
obelisks.
one-
obelisk, yeah.
They have
Yeah.
one in Egypt, originally is from Egypt,
Yeah.
right?
But the inside of the buildings are from Rome. Like everything's from Rome. Like almost every capital is like Rome stuff. So it makes you think, why is this Vatican stuff here?
And I see a lot of correlation between the Vatican and Egypt. They have a lot of similarities with
Well, they are pagan, you know.
the signs that I see.
Yeah. Well, Catholics are pagan. They're a mixture of all pagan religions into one, you know. So that's probably what it is. You know. Yeah. But yeah, I thought that was very interesting. Good preaching.
Yeah, I
That's,
censored. I
Yeah.
censored as much as I could.
yeah. I just.
Yeah.
So we're not gonna have church next week or the next week after that.
Right, 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh, dude! I'll catch y'all, pony girls.
You gonna get your drug dealer contact back in your phone?
Yeah, my fentanyl subscriber. All right, do I turn this off for you guys, or do you want it on?
Oh no, yeah, you can turn it off.